to professional real estate agents giving our perspectives on the market, national, local, and info for agents. I'm Jessica Preventure with Pro Homes and Layer Realty Partners, and this is my co-host,
Keith Allencourt, Layer Realty.
So let's jump right into it. So this is nationally a little crazy with these rates.
Yes.
And everything kind of, inflation seems to be coming down a little bit. The National Association of Realtors just suggested and is kind of urging to not continue to rate hike.
Yeah, seems like we went up just a tad here, and they wanna, I know they got another meeting coming up. They can hold that rate hike again. That would be awesome.
And I mean, to be clear, the reason the Fed is raising the standard rate is to curb inflation. And so what Lawrence Yun is saying is that inflation is slowing. In fact, in June, we saw the smallest gain in more than 2 years, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's slowing down. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not done, but it is coming down. In fact, rents also are slowing down, still very high, going up about 8.3%. But hopefully it's a sign that things are slowing down. So maybe we don't need to continue.
What do you think? What do you think that they'll do? Do you think that we were all pretty shocked last time that they didn't do anything. I think we're still over that the Fed's 2% target there. I don't know. What do you think?
I know, but I mean, they raised it 10 times last year.
Yeah.
So yeah. I just think, and it's interesting to me because it's like a spider web. Right?
Yeah.
So like we're dealing with inflation. Lower inflation means lower rates on mortgages. Mm-hmm. It's connected, but also, the home, and we're going to talk about New Hampshire, like we still have a serious shortage of inventory, and raises in prices impacts affordability. I feel like real estate, whether it's rent or home ownership, it's a different kind of product, right? It's not like, well, I'm just not going to get eggs, or I'm just not going to get milk, or I'm just, going to drive less. Like sure. You need a place to live,
yep,
like
sure.
Unless you're on the street. So people so if prices, like, I'm not sure that it's just going to magically adjust.
Of course. Yep.
So if the Fed continues to raise rates, you're decreasing affordability for people, and it's a commodity that you have to have.
Right.
You have to have a place.
People got to see that. They have to see that, oh, okay, they didn't raise it twice in a row. That must mean we're coming into a better spot. And people got to see that and feel that. If they just see rate hike, they're just going to say, oh, no, not the market for me. I'm going to wait. But they see things start to steady.
Then maybe it'll open up some sellers, which would open up some inventory, which would
exactly. So I think that ideally we would like to see everything stay where they are.
Do not raise. And the thing is, eventually, and this is, we've talked about this before, is what I still tell sellers and buyers is like, when these rates start to come down, you're going to see a flood of people to the market, which is more competition. So you're almost better off getting your new home now and then just refinancing.
That's what I tell people. I say, if you can afford the percentage right now, refinance in a little while, get that percentage taken off. Because like Jessica said, man, when those rates start coming down, everybody's going to be looking and flooding the market. So
Agreed.
Weigh out those options.
So let's compare that to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
New Hampshire had a banner month in June.
It sure did.
So the median price in New Hampshire hit $495. Now I want to be very clear. Median means middle price.
Not the average.
Not average. There you go. Not the average, the middle price. So roughly the same number of single family homes sold for $800,000 as sold for $320,000. That's a huge disparity. And so $495 is the middle property. Sure. But that said, since that is our standard measure, that is the most expensive single month in the state's history ever.
Yeah, that's incredible. It really is.
And the affordability index dropped to 661, which is the lowest it's been in 20 years. So are you familiar with the affordability index?
Why don't you give me a rundown?
Okay. So the affordability index is telling you the average salary in New Hampshire, what percentage is required to buy an average home.
Right.
So we want that number to be higher. You want to say I have 100% of the income required to buy an average home, or more than that, right? When I started, 6 years ago, that was like 120 or something. It was great
Right.
affordability. 61%, that's saying, they only have 61% of the amount of income that would be required in order to purchase an average home.
That doesn't sound too good.
It doesn't sound good at all.
Not at all.
And, that's the really scary, and I hate to say scary because, we can make it happen for you, but if you are a first-time buyer and you think that you're buying your first home is a home like your parents' first home, I need to tell you that it probably isn't. And you need to be very logical. It may be that your first home is a condo. It may be that it's even a garden style condo. The point is to get in the game in a way that is affordable, because what's going to happen is, let's like play this out. You're spending $2,300 a month in renting a 2-bedroom garden style apartment in Manchester.
Ooh.
That's insane. That's more expensive than my first mortgage, but it is what it is. And you say, well, Jess, I can't buy my single family home, so I'm not going to buy anything. Okay, well, the time that you're waiting, you're spending that $2,300 a month. You're still living in a garden style condo, and you're not getting anywhere. You're paying someone else's mortgage. If you were to buy that same garden style apartment for $250, and you're paying still around $2,300 a month, maybe a little bit more. The point is that condo now over the next 3 to 5 years is gaining equity. So when you go turn around to sell it, every dollar towards principal you're getting back. And in addition, there's probably going to be some appreciation. So now, in 5 years from now, we turn around and we sell that property for $300,000 or $325,000, and you walk away with $50,000 to $75,000 in cash. Now you can leverage that into your first home. That is the game of real estate. You leverage it each time. So please do not be discouraged that you can't buy your first home as that 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a yard, that you maybe grew up in. You need to start a little bit smaller. In addition, you could leverage that condo into a rental. And maybe then you're renting it, you're growing in an appreciation, you take a home equity loan to still cash in on the money to buy your new home. Now you have a rental property that's earning you money, blah, blah, blah. There's ways.
That's what I was going to mention, Jess. At that point, your rate, you might like that rate that you have on that condo or rental, soon to be rental property. You might decide, hey, I'll just keep this, borrow against it, and then get into that newer, better home that you're looking for, and then just kind of work towards like that.
Yeah. So
I think that's great.
It's a tight market here in New Hampshire. We're down in inventory, properties for sale, properties under contract.
You name it.
And total closings. Usually when you come down in total closings, you think, oh, the market's softening. That's not the case here. The reason there's fewer closings is because there's no inventory. So,
don't be so picky. You can't be as picky. If you want a place, you want to start to get that equity, find a place, or think about a place that is going to get you the most equity. What is this place going to be in 5 years? What is this place going to be in 10 years? Is it a growing area? And we're here to help you with that, right? But these are the things you have to look for in order to get, like Jess said, in the game, start building that equity, because as we know, renting is not going to get you anywhere, and it's not going to change anytime soon.
Yes, and remember too that there's different ways to grow equity. If you can put in sweat equity, if you're someone that has those kind of skills, maybe we look for a property that needs a little love, or if you
straight rental.
Yep, or if you're someone that works really and you're not going to do any of that work, then we need to look at other things, like he said. Where's the area? Is it up and coming? Do we think we're going to have improvements, etc.? So that's what we're here for. So feel free to call.
And we're always looking.
Even when we don't have a client.
We never don't have a client.
Yeah. Okay, so let's head into our tips for real estate agents. Now, we've talked about these lawsuits in the past. And if you watched our previous, I have strong feelings about it, but it was great. T360 set out an open letter to agents and to everybody really that we need to start taking action now. And I think that's what we've been saying all along as well. These lawsuits could, and likely
they will,
create foundational change in how our business is run. And change is the name of the game. You need to adapt, problem solve, come up with solutions. Which one of these did you think spoke to you the most in terms of what their suggestions were?
Well, and I know how you feel about this, but just in general, I'm not quite sure how it's going to play out, but I feel like it's going to level out a little bit of that playing field. It might eliminate a few buyer agents that are just kind of, not putting in that work, that effort, right? As we put in a lot of effort into what we do and how we present ourselves and what we offer to our clients and that sort of thing. So I feel like this might actually hone in on maybe an agent like you or I, where we're going to benefit from it. And it might, kind of weed out the not so serious agents, people that aren't. And I think that ultimately that's good for the buyer at the time. And then if these things, go through eventually, then, why should it be on the seller necessarily? So I'm into and open to hearing all the discussions about it and that sort of thing. So I think just in general, like the overall topic is kind of fascinating to me, and really how it's came, finding where real estate in general has come from where it started to now. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, MLS PIN, which is the MLS for Massachusetts, so it's not New Hampshire uses Prime MLS, but MLS PIN, so right next door, they just agreed to pay $3 million and stop requiring sellers to offer buyer broker compensation. Now that's a requirement of Prime MLS. So just the fact that they're stopped to requiring it, immediately, I think is going to start making a shift.
Of course.
And T360 says, number one, NAIR should require buyer brokers to have signed buyer broker agreements. I think this is interesting because of all my connections throughout the country. Through the Tom Ferry organization, I have access to a lot of agents in a lot of different states. And there are many states that do not do a buyer broker agency agreement. Now we do, meaning Pro Homes and Lair. Pro Homes, Keith and I and our team, we require a buyer broker agency agreement before we submit your first offer.
Sure.
We may not require it immediately at first meeting, but pretty quickly afterwards. We do a lot of work before you go under contract, and we want to make sure there's clarity about how we're going to get paid. Now, within that buyer broker agreement, we list our compensation. Now, if the list in New Hampshire, Prime MLS requires that you put seller offered compensation to the buyer's agent. But that may not be equal to what we're charging. Now, we're not really allowed to talk about the exact numbers, but if I'm charging X percent and the the seller's only offering, say, 1% less than that, I already am having those conversations with my buyers that they need to bring the difference. They need to count that into that closing cost, that I am worth X. And this is why. And then I deliver my value,
sure,
right? That you got to deliver on what you're saying.
Of course.
So I think transitioning more and more, that more of that price is going to fall on the buyers instead of the sellers is we're already practicing those skills.
Yep.
But I think having a signed agreement is super important. It protects you, it protects the buyer. And then it says brokerage should require signed broker agreements, which is basically the same thing. Yep. And then agents should update their skills.
That's right.
Right? We should be able to market ourselves appropriately, speak. I was at an open house yesterday. Great open house. I just love open houses.
Me too.
But I met so many people that were there alone that were like, well, I kind of have an agent. I'm not like signed. And it's like, well, what does that even mean?
Right.
And like, are they sending you properties? Are you, well, no.
Are they working for you? Is
Yeah,
how I like to say.
yeah. It's like, well, no, when I see something, I tell them. It's like, what? They're not looking. They're not looking for off-market properties. They're not sending you properties on a regular basis. That blow my mind. Then these poor clients are potentially submitting offers. And they're like, I went, let's say 35 over asking and I didn't get it. And I said, okay, well, what did you do about inspections? What did you do about appraisal? Did you do an escalation clause? And they're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
And it's like, that's our job.
Right.
You don't just say, hey, you go to an open house by yourself. Let me know when you see something. Let me know if you want to put in an offer, and allow the buyer to just say, I want to offer X. Our job is to educate them, to give them all their options, and then let them decide. They don't know. They don't know what their options are. They don't know that they can do inspections and I'll cover anything under $5,000. Like, they have no idea. So,
and that's why, and I know we've talked about it, but that's why you need to go out there and not just take the first realtor that, replies to your email, or you've submitted a request to kind of check out a property. All of a sudden somebody calls you like, yep, I'll get you into that. You want me to put in an offer? Yep, that's good. So, test drive your agents, go in there, talk with them. Most of them are going to want to meet with you. They're going to want to give you as much information as you want to give. Definitely do that. And as this materializes, I feel like that's going to be more and more important. And like you mentioned, we kind of are already doing a lot of those things that they're recommending that might end up getting put into play anyways. So
yeah. And I think you mentioned it a little earlier. The agents that aren't doing that how are they gonna articulate their value?
They're not going to be able to, right?
Like, if they're doing nothing for their clients, then the clients don't want to pay for that. But if I'm sending you properties every single day and I'm reaching out to you at least once a week saying, this is what I think we should see, and I'm sitting down and having a strong buyer consultation, and I'm saying, this is where I'm going to go for off-market properties, and then that's a lot easier to say, and now you're going to pay me blah, blah, blah,
of course.
And
most people do not mind. They don't mind once you've established what you're worth, and people are saying, yes, thank you so much. You've gotten me into the, we're talking about a big purchase here. It's a big.
Well, and that's the other thing. This is your biggest financial investment in your life. Never mind, it has a very emotional, personal reaction because it's where you live. So it's like, why would you leave that to Sally Homemaker, who's doing this part-time on the side? Like,
sure.
You really want to ask, how many deals have you done this year? This market is changing so rapidly. If you're not doing a minimum, if the agent you're talking to isn't doing a minimum of a deal a month, how are they even up to date? How are they staying in the flow of things? That's how quickly things are changing. I could just go on and on about how to hire a great agent,
and we'll get back to it. I'm sure.
I'm sure we will. But that's it for today. Please let us know if you have any questions, what you want us to talk about. Put it in the comments. We can't wait to hear from you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.